Thanks, everyone. I see we are now live on YouTube, so I'd like to welcome everyone to our Prescott Town Council meeting for Monday, January 17th, 2022. We all managed to dig ourselves out in one way or the other, but we're on Zoom tonight, so everyone was able to attend. One of the benefits of the Zoom generation, I guess. So I'll start the meeting off and call it to order with the traditional land acknowledgement. We'll begin this meeting of council by acknowledging that we are meeting on Aboriginal land that has been inhabited by Indigenous peoples. In particular, we acknowledge the traditional territory of the Huron-Wendat, Anishinabeg, Haudenosaunee, Anishinaabeg, and the Oneida and Haudenosaunee peoples. And one other acknowledgement tonight, I'll just note to everyone, I'm wearing Councillor Gory Shankar's Buffalo Bills jersey tonight. Lost a bit of a bet and a prediction of the outcome of the game there on Saturday. So I said I'd wear it for tonight's meeting, and I'm wearing it. And it came in handy yesterday because I needed a crying towel when my Cowboys crashed out of the playoffs. But I'll wash it, Gory, honest, before I give it back to you. But anyways, go Bills. And I've joined the Bills Mafia, I think, for the rest of the playoffs. So we'll see how far they go. They sure look great on Saturday. So anyhow, we will start off tonight with our approval of the agenda. And recommendation reads that the agenda for the council meeting of January 17th, 2022 be approved as presented. Could I ask for a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Shankar, seconded by Councillor Burton. Any discussion on the agenda tonight? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Motion's carried. 3 declarations of interest. Any declarations from members of council this evening? Seeing none, 4 presentations. We do have one presentation tonight under 4.1. That's on our website refresh. We do have a PowerPoint. I kind of thought Lindsay might take that, but she's had to duck out for a moment. Mr. Armstrong, are you handling that this evening to take us through the changes to the website? I'm just wondering if we can move that a little bit further down, and so to give Lindsay an opportunity to work with our council roster. Okay, so sounds good. So we'll just move 4.1 a little later in the meeting when hopefully we have our clerk and Councillor Ostrander on the line. So 5 delegations, nothing tonight. 6 minutes of our previous council meeting, and we do have under 6.1 the meeting from January 4th, 2022. 2 weeks ago, of course, the recommendations at the council minutes dated January 4, 2022 be accepted as presented. Could I ask for a mover, please? Moved by Councillor McConnell, seconded by Councillor Shankar. Any discussion on that set of minutes? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Motion is carried. Thanks, everyone. We do have 7 communications and petitions, nothing tonight. 8 consent reports. We do just have the information package. Did anyone want to separate anything from that information package out for separate discussion and potential motion tonight? Seeing no, so the recommendation reads under consent reports that all items listed under the consent report section of the agenda be accepted as presented. And that is, of course, just 8.1, the information items provided under separate cover. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Shankar, seconded by Councillor Burton. Did I see your hand? Thank you. Any discussion on that item? Seeing none, all in favor? Ms. Velkamp, can we go back to we just took a pause on the website refresh review. Did you want to tackle that now, or do we want to put it off a little bit? I see Councillor Ostrander still having issue with his audio.
Yeah, I can. I'm not sure if Mike was able to, or Councillor Ostrander was able to connect or not, but I can do the presentation if Council would like me to proceed.
Yeah, sure. Let's do that if everyone's okay with it. But with Mike, has he tried just logging out and logging back in completely? I didn't see him vanish totally, but maybe I missed it.
He has his audio is on the screen showing that it's trying to connect to audio, but then it's also through his iPad. So I'm not quite sure if there's an error. After the presentation, I can try to give him a shout as well to walk him through again. Maybe we can get him connected. Okay, sure thing. Because we do have to get moving tonight. Otherwise, I'd pause a little bit, but we better get rolling because we do have a fairly extensive agenda. So if you want to take us through that review of the website that just went live last week, please go ahead. I'll just share my screen here. There, can everyone see my screen? Mm-hmm. Perfect. Oh, okay, through you, Mayor Todd. Last year, Council had approved a website refresh. And as Mayor Todd just stated, the refresh went live on Thursday. So staff selected Umbraco software for the website refresh, which provided users with enhanced tools with the future ability to pay for services, increased functionality, user-friendly site with accessible forms, professional look and feel, and bright and fun graphics and images. There are some similarities. The verticals have changed to reflect the same topics, but are now listed as our community, rec and culture, town hall, and our websites. So this is a picture of the homepage, and the main page offers clear landing pages, graphics and images for findability, and the ability to alert residents and users of important information with pop-up alerts. The pop-up alerts is very similar to what we had on our past website. Staff can use that to alert residents of holiday hours, RFPs, job openings, and currently the pop-up is showing a form to provide users with the ability to offer suggestions and comments on the refresh site. And we have received a handful of feedback, and it's all been positive. So we were great to see that people were using the form. These images here, large items, will change throughout the year to focus on relevant information. Currently, we're focusing on the museum, winter operations, and then this image here is for Meet Town Council. Future pictures might include municipal election, upcoming events, and summer recreation schedules. Below these large images, there are icons to provide visual aids to help users quickly find frequently requested information. One of the verticals on our website includes our websites, and these websites are microsites within our website, which allows staff to focus on content while maintaining the feel of the main page, but allowing for flexibility in that content and functionality. Currently, these microsites or other websites include Invest, which was economic development, Explore, which is tourism, the Prescott Public Library, and the Prescott Fire Department. And there is the ability to add additional sites going forward. And some of the future options could include Walker House or the Marina. The refreshed website provides staff with creative flexibility. Videos that previously were posted on YouTube can be displayed on pages. The previous website, a link would take you to Fort Town TV, but now they are actually embedded in the website, so those videos can play at the bottom of certain pages. Social media feeds are linked directly to the website as well. Excuse me. So on the home page at the very bottom, there are 3 images, and those are directly fed from our Instagram. So as our Instagram is updated, the most recent 3 photos will appear there as well. And the use of bright images and clear graphics provide an eye-catching feel to our new municipal site. These 3 images show what the website looks like on a mobile device. So the website is mobile device compatible. As you can see in this middle picture, it does have the drop downs that are easy to find. And then the last photo shows our report an issue form, which is simple. And the great thing about this tool is that residents, if they have their phone and there is an issue they want to report, they do have the ability to take a photo and send it, and it goes to the right department. And then we have a list of everything we need. So Form Builder was one of the additional purchases of software that went along with the website refresh. And these forms are directly integrated into the website. They're accessible and will streamline the process. They focus specifically on the information that is being required and can also allow public to control the information that's being submitted. In the future, the forms will be able to allow for a payment function, and we're hoping to make use of this function through the purchase of animal tags or parking permits. So the presentation was just in hopes to provide a quick look at highlights of the website. And I wanted to close just saying that all the departments had contributed to this project. And I think it was a complete team effort. And I think I can speak for everyone saying we're proud of what we've put together. I hope everyone else feels the same way. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Velkamp. Great work all around. It definitely is already, it seems like a much more usable website with more options for the public, which is great to see. Feedback and comments from members of council, please. Councilor Burton, please.
Thank you, Mayor Todd, and thanks, Lindsay, for your presentation. What a great website. It's really a good upgrade from what we had. I had a chance to go through most of it and provide a lot of feedback to Lindsay and staff. And I think the videos are inviting, the colors, and I think it's more user friendly, and it has a lot more details on what's going on around town. So I'm happy to say that it's excellent. Great job.
Thanks so much for that, Councilor Burton. Other comments, questions from other members of council? Councilor Shankar, please.
Yes, good job by everyone involved. I did take a look at it. It's much like Councilor Burton said, it's user friendly now. I like the fact that everything's right there, like our social media posts that we put on there, our live events, the calendar. I looked at the calendar this week. That was good. I think that's something that is really good to utilize and put as much information as we can on the calendars, whether it's garbage pickup day or you know, like kind of like the calendars we used to send out in the mail, I think, that have everything on there. So our council meetings and all the other meetings that occur. So yeah, good job. And again, it's a sign of the times that we don't just let an old website keep going. We're constantly updating. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilor Shankar. That really is an excellent point in the calendar too. If I've ever gotten the feedback I've gotten from the website over the years has always been about populating that calendar with more events. So I think that's really a good thing to focus on as we move forward a bit here with this. A lot of people in town really do. It's a very, very online community, and everyone's looking for events on that website. So that'll be a great way to enhance people's interactions with Town Hall. Other comments, questions? Councilor McConnell, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I think it's an excellent development for our website as well. My congratulations to the folks that had a hand in it. The add-ons that are going to be possible, I think, are worth noting. And I think a couple were mentioned, the marina in the summer and Walker House possibly. I think another good add-on would be the Leo, because there's going to be an increasing amount of activities down there, sports activities, rental activities. So it'd be a good thing for people to be able to tune in and see what's going on, when, and what times are available if they want to plan something. So yeah, I'm very happy with it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilor McConnell. Other comments, questions? Yeah, well, I'll close off and say, yeah, good job. Just echo what everybody else has said. Much more usable site. I think the public are really going to take to it. The only comment I'll just for those in the public that have looked at the site, because in my own personal experience, that site wasn't up more than about 5 minutes, and I had someone send me a note asking for something that was on the old website that had migrated over to the new one yet, with regards to community applications for the community grants programs. And I told me, rest assured that these things will be repopulated as we move forward. So if anyone is looking for something and they can't find it right away, please let us know. I think the very first pop-up is to let us know if you encounter any issues. So please let us know about that. It is, as websites always are, work in progress, but we're committed to fixing all those little problems and adding in all the features that we can. One question I did have, though, with regards to the forms, the payability and so forth, when do you think we'll be at the point where we can actually full usable forms that people can actually pay for services? How far is that away?
Through you, Mayor Todd, I believe we're trying to work with finance to figure out what the most compatible software is to use with what we currently are using to process payments. So once we have that figured out, then we're hoping to get it working. We have to create the forms too, so there's a bit of a timeline, but I don't have an exact date, but it'll definitely be something we're hoping to have in 2022.
Great. That's something else that actually a lot of people have asked for, not just for forms and dog tags and so on, but even for some of the town merchandise, like the sweatshirts, things like that. I got some calls from a friend that's moved down to the Maritimes, even looking to buy one of the sweatshirts that we've got now, and I think we'll actually do pretty well with that with merchandise sales, oddly enough, on there. So all good stuff. Matt, I say you just came back on. Did you have a comment on that with the?
Yeah, I think we're looking for the spring, and then as we come up through each season and come across forms that are applicable, then we'll add them as we go. Thank you.
That's great. Thanks very much, and thanks again for to everyone on staff that contributed to the revamp and refreshing of the websites. Good stuff. So we'll move back on. I think we were just moving into item 9, so committee reports, but no committee reports this evening, as we've had no committee meetings. 10, Mayor, a couple real quick comments. First off, I want to thank our town staff for doing such an excellent job in very, very harsh conditions with this heavy snowfall. They always do an incredible job, and even seen some really good positive feedback online, which is not always the home of positive feedback, but there was some great stuff on there today. Lindsay Ellis posted, a couple others posted about that town staff, even clearing sidewalks, were doing their best to make sure that driveways weren't filled back in. So always fantastic to see, especially with regards to some of the older residents we have in town. And when you get your driveway filled in like that, it can be a pretty tough thing for an older person to deal with. So it's great to see our guys, the fantastic level of service and that small town feel that we provide here even when it comes to something like snow clearing. So hats off again to our public works crew, the whole operations department, for once again doing an incredible job. And please be patient with us, folks. That's a heck of a lot of snow we'll be digging out for the next 48 hours, I would say, minimum, and then snow cleanup after that. So please keep an eye on your vehicles, get them off the roads at night. We need vehicles removed from the roadways, as always in the wintertime, but particularly now because we've got a lot of snow to get off town streets. So again, thanks to the Public Works Department, and thanks for everyone in town for the cooperation as we continue snow removal operations. A couple real quick comments, just myself. Had a couple good meetings with staff since the last meeting, and also with Mayor Malenka of Augusta with regards to what we're doing with the ECDEV plan. We are looking at scheduling that workshop meeting, and also I don't know if we have the firm final date on the joint meeting with Augusta, but I think we were pretty much locked into the 31st of January as of Matt, you're nodding. Are we pretty much cementing that with Augusta?
That's correct.
So we will be doing that meeting on the 31st. That's our 5th Monday. Sorry to fill it up with another council meeting, but sometimes that happens. Good progress with just trying to work with Augusta on some of the issues, just kind of go over some joint possibilities there. And of course, any feedback anyone here has, please get it in. It will be a work in progress. There's no drop dead date for this, but obviously the earlier the better with all feedback, so we can incorporate it as we're moving forward. We're also trying to schedule a meeting of our joint committee that Councillor Shankar and I sit on with Augusta and have for the last year or so. We're trying to have a meeting of that group just before we go in on the 31st as well, just to review things, make sure everybody's comfortable with the format on the 31st as well. But again, it's all wide open as of the 31st, and please just get your feedback in, and we're going to do some great stuff this year, working on the ECDEV plan for Prescott and also the joint one. And I just wanted to note on joint services, we had an extra budget meeting, as I think I mentioned at our last meeting. We did have scheduled an extra budget meeting last Monday. Don't have anything yet as a final with the joint services. It was actually, and this wasn't really reflected in the news coverage of it, if anyone saw the Recorder and Times story, but there was a very lengthy discussion on paramedic response times, and I actually led the way on that and proposed a motion at the end that we bring staff back with more information on paramedic response times, particularly with North Leeds, because there is the possibility that we would add to the budget again, to tackle those extended response times. Once you get up towards Athens and into North Leeds, you get some pretty long response times. That's still an ongoing issue. So at any rate, we're bringing that back for the February meeting of Joint Services for a staff report. Should still have the budget completed at Joint Services by the end of February at the latest. And we were looking, I think the number had been brought down under 2 as of the last meeting, but that's in flux because of the paramedic discussions. But other than that, I think that's good for me tonight. I will move on to 11 outside boards, committees, and commissions. And as always, Councilor Burton, please.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. I just wanted to echo lots of positive feedback today on all of our social media sites. People are happy that our town staff are working extra hard today with that snow. And I just wanted to say they've been working extra hard in our rinks as well. So our Sarah Spencer outdoor rink is very well utilized. The kids are having a blast. I saw some young ones on there the other day learning how to skate. So how fantastic is that? And the harbor ice rink is ready to go as well. I've seen a couple of people skating down there as well. So our town staff is going above and beyond this year and making sure that everybody's active and staying safe. So thank you.
Thank you very much. I was down at the harbor. The ice looks fantastic too. Maybe not fantastic enough that I'm going to dare it quite yet, but it looked very smooth and very and kids were out. I think we provided skating. They're not chairs, but those things you can lean on. And I saw a couple little kids using those yesterday afternoon. So awesome to see that. And people are just loving it. And we're going to go through winter and minus 30 on the weekends. We might as well provide some ways people can enjoy this deep freeze. So thanks very much for those comments, Councilor Burton. Councilor McConnell, please.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. Excuse me. Yeah, I was down at the waterfront yesterday too. Went for a long walk and the ice was really looking good at the marina. I doubt very seriously whether you could find it right now or not. Probably a few days to get that ice bare again with them working on the streets and the sidewalks, but it sure looked good yesterday. The thing I'll mention was that the library was closed this storm today. There's been no decision on tomorrow that I'm aware of yet, but if you were thinking going to the library, by all means call first to make sure that there's somebody there. And that's all I have for tonight, Mayor Todd. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilor McConnell. I'm assuming Mike's connected twice here. Is Councilor Ostrander available? Ms. Velkamp, were you able to speak to him?
Through you, Mayor Todd, he can hear us, and I think we could hear him occasionally, but I'm not quite sure how well he can hear. So I have muted him. I can unmute him. So if Councilor Ostrander, if you hear me, I'll unmute you in case he needs to say anything. He can get our attention.
Sure. Mike, are you there? Can you hear us? Just wanted to give you the opportunity to give a report tonight.
Yeah, I've heard you all along. Am I unmuted now?
Yeah, we can hear you fine.
Okay.
Please go ahead.
My apologies. I didn't have the link to start with. I thought I had it, but I didn't. So anyway, nothing really to report from my end other than nice to see the skating rinks up and going. The one at Sarah Spencer Park has been used quite a bit in the last week and more so by the day. I think the snow removal will hinder it a little bit, but I'm sure the weather stays cold, it'll get well used. So that's it for me. Thanks.
Thanks very much, Councilor Ostrander. If you do have anything to add later, just if you could, maybe you could use the reactions. I can't see you, but use the reactions and put your hand up that way if you did want to speak, and I'd be happy to recognize you there.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Councilor Shankar, please.
I just want to shout out to all the guys working for the ops department. I know we're a little bit short-staffed with some of the symptoms that are going around and the COVID-like symptoms and everything. So some guys are having to stay home just for the public. And I think we've all said this already. Just be patient. This is a ton of snow that we're not used to, and we do a great job of removing it. We're probably not going to get everywhere right away, but and you know, there's going to be some snowbanks for a couple of days, and we do our best to keep it clear and just be patient with us. Like you said, 48 hours, maybe it will be gone, and then we can look at removing the snow, which will be a big job, and it's an expensive job, but we do it very well. So just want to mention that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Shankar. Councillor Young, please.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. I have nothing to report. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ray, and thanks to everyone. And I'll just finish up by underlining that. Please be patient with us. Lee had a really good point on that. In the next couple of days, the skating rinks are not going to be the top priority, obviously. So we do have to deal with the snow first, and then we'll be back to the rinks as soon as we can. And we are, as Councillor Shankar mentioned, it is we're dealing with some short staff now. We had a retirement before Christmas, and obviously COVID's taken its toll as well, as it has on pretty much all services right now. So be patient, folks. We're doing the best we can, and it's actually a pretty stellar job, even with the handicap. So thanks again for everyone for great reports tonight. So moving along, we are into 12, which is pretty much the majority of the meeting tonight. Quite a number of reports. So 12.1 is staff report 3-2022. This is that report on the 401 Edward Street interchange. Recommendation is that council direct staff to provide the Ontario Ministry of Transportation with feedback regarding the Edward Street 401 interchange in relation to the Highway 401 improvements from Highway 16 to Maitland as outlined in Report 03-2022 before January 22, 2022. It's lots of 22. So could I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Young, seconded by Councillor Burton. Mr. Armstrong, I believe that's you.
Very much. If I start to cut in and out, just let me know and I'll turn my video off. So as we're all aware, the MTO is going through a process of evaluating all of the interchanges between basically 416 and Maitland. And so they've come up with a number of shortlisted alternatives for the Edward Street. And we've provided some feedback for consideration for council, but really want to allow council to have any input that they saw on each of these. So with N1B, that is what we would kind of consider the more gold standard type of interchange. It does, as you can see, align Development Drive with the off-ramp, and then allows for an on-ramp on the west side of Edward Street. So that from the staff perspective is the one that we would prefer as number one. N3A would envision realigning Development Drive where it would connect a little bit further south, and where it currently connects would be a dead end. Certainly we see some disruption to commercial properties in that one, and so it does have some concerns with it. The next one, N4, is simply an on-ramp and an off-ramp. There are no additional loops or anything like that. And again, moving further to the south. Then when we go to N5C, which is basically very similar to what you saw in the first one, but adding a roundabout and no ramp on the west side of Edward, is the fourth option. And then the final option is moving Development Drive significantly to the north. Obviously, this would have a high impact on a number of businesses along there, and be similar to the second option was noted. So I'll just take a pause there to allow council any questions or comments that they might have.
Thank you very much, Mr. Armstrong. Comments, questions from council for the CAO, please. Councillor Young and then Councillor McConnell.
Matthew, I don't, excuse me, I don't have the drawings in front of me. There was one, at least one, where they were looking at a 401 east exit that would come off of the start of the overpass around the gas station, correct?
True, though we haven't gotten to those quite yet, because I was just going to deal with the north side first and then
Okay.
deal with the south side.
All right, I will hold my thought if I can remember that long.
Councilor McConnell?
Thanks, Mayor Todd. My comment is really general one for the whole program, not just the north side. So I'll throw it in now. But I can recall reading that the overchange or underpass that we have, overpass, whatever you want to call it, exchange, is not capable of taking 6 lanes of traffic. I remember reading that, which is not true because it's got 6 lanes right now. It's unfortunately 2 of them are on ramps eastbound and on ramps westbound. If those on ramps were put someplace else, then that you could put 6 lanes through it. The unfortunate thing is, if you put the on ramps someplace else, in order to access them, you have to actually cross the other lane of traffic, and it makes a very tight turn for somebody with a truck, especially if you happen to have 2 trailers behind you to access that turn. But what I'm concerned with, and what I'm wondering is really is this whole process that we're going through a waste of time. If the overpass has to be replaced because they decide that they can't put 6 lanes through it, I don't know if you've seen replacement overpasses, but they built one in Morrisburg just a short time ago, and what they did was they built it right up against the one that was there and then tore the one down, the old one. That's fine in Morrisburg because you don't have anything on the north or the south side of that overpass much, but it doesn't work very good for Prescott. So if they were to build it to the west, it's going to come down right at the back end of Riverside Pontiac's building. If they build it to the east, they would have to remove, I think, the new truck stop in order to accommodate it. So I think that we should be talking to the ministry about what they are planning to do with this overpass, because that is going to be the prime consideration as far as where the off ramps and the on ramps go. They can't very well tear that one down and build another one, or we have no access across the 401. So it has to be there, and it has to go on the side, one side or the other, as far as I'm concerned. So I would suggest that we have staff look into that very deeply before we get too far into this, because it just doesn't matter if that's the route that they go, what we decide. It's all up for decision again.
Mr. Armstrong, comment?
So this is the MTO's process for determining exactly how they're going to replace that bridge, as well as realign the on and off ramps. So it's a good point that when it is replaced, we'll have to possibly shift or determine exactly how they're going to do that. However, this is all part and parcel of one process. So when they're looking at doing, they wouldn't make any changes to the on and off ramps until they actually replace the bridge. And so this is exactly what their process is, to look at that entire stretch, be able to say, what do we currently have in terms of bridges and infrastructure? How do we better make them for not only the 6 lanes, but understanding that some of those bridges are also at end of life. So really that's the purpose of the study, and this is being run by MTO as opposed to any particular municipality or individual.
Any follow-up, Councilor McConnell?
Well, I would just point out again that all of the options that they have given us, and quite frankly, I agree with staff's choice for both the north and the south side. I think that's the best thing all the way around, but they're all based on that overpass exactly where it sits. You move it one side or the other and everything changes. So, you know, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? And to me, this right now is a waste. If they tell us, okay, we're going to run 6 lanes through there and we're going to change the off ramps or the access ramps so that they don't go underneath the overpass, well, then that's fine. We can go from there. But I would think that the decision on whether the overpasses are replaced is the primary decision that should be made. And I realize it's not us that's going to make it, but I think we should emphasize that to the ministry.
Yeah, it's an excellent point, along with the timing of when this is all going to happen, because it all really it goes down to that as well, and that's the biggest question I have as well, along with your comments, Lee, because they are still noting that by 2051, several intersections expect to be operating above capacity. I mean, I don't think they're seriously looking at letting it go that long, and they are talking about rehabilitation short term 10 to 15 years. So they've got the tentative bridge rehab scheduled for 2022. I don't think we can afford 10 to 15 years on a rehab stuck with the 4 lanes. We were operating at pretty high capacity the last time I saw the numbers in 16, 17, when we went through that whole process with MTO under the last government to accelerate the build schedule. So I think we need clarity on what they're proposing here as well. And I'd quite frankly, I'd like to see the traffic numbers again. One of the biggest problems that we had, and something they don't look at as important as strongly as I think they should, is the amount of truck traffic. And I think we were around 40% transport traffic here. And that compares with Kingston, which was down in the 20s. They obviously take up much more of the road, just pure volume of vehicle, than before even getting into the speed. So I think that's something that needs to be looked at with their highway capacity numbers. But at any rate, this is an ongoing dialogue. It's their process. But I think that feedback, I think we need to know the timing of this to answer Councillor McConnell's questions, because there's going to be a bit of an engineering challenge there to solve when they go to replace that overpass, unless they can do the rehab and somehow, as part of the rehab, work enough room in there to expand. I mean, I don't know what's possible with engineering the existing structure, but I think we definitely need some more information to answer Lee's question about the bridge, and also mine about the timing of it all. But anyways, just to follow up what Councillor McConnell was mentioning. Anything else on this side of the overpass? Seeing no, so Mr. Armstrong, please.
So on the south side, what they're suggesting is very similar to the very first option for the north side in S1. And you can see really the only major change is adding in a on-ramp on the east side of Edward Street, so that you would be able to access 401 that way. In S2, very similar to what you see now, there is no additional on-ramp, and it would align with Prescott Center Drive. And then S4 would envision similar to what you see now, but adding the roundabout in it. And so again, staff's preference, I believe, was S1. Then it would make it very similar to what we would see in the N1B on the north side. And then all of them obviously have their pros and cons, but certainly that's from staff perspective what we saw.
Thank you very much, Mr. Armstrong. Comments on the south side? Councillor Young, you're up.
I remembered. I don't know what the breakdown of truck traffic leaving the gas station would be going east and going west. But assuming, there's 30 or 40% of those trucks that go east, rather than having them come through the intersection onto Edward Street, a short turn, and around to the 401, would they consider having an exit from the gas station property directly onto the 401?
Certainly we can bring up that point. I don't think I've ever seen it up and down the 401 or any major 400 highway. Also, then you would get into leaving a private property as opposed to a roadway and hanging on to the provincial highway. So those were some points, but certainly we can ask.
Yeah, well, yeah, I assume that as well, Matthew, but it would cut down an awful lot of traffic going through that intersection. Thank you.
And of course, they do allow that in the on routes. It's obviously the only way you can get in and out of them. So it does make a certain amount of sense. I think this actually, I don't remember specifics, but I think this came up a few years back. And I think they do have policies like firmly governing this with terms of like private, any sort of private developments. And the on routes, of course, are provincial. So, but that's a really excellent point again to look at. Councillor McConnell and anyone else, please raise your hands if you had any comments. Lee?
Ray made a good point there, but I don't think an exit from the gas station is a really good idea. However, Prescott Center Drive, the way it comes in, it curves off to the east, but the roadway does continue on, and then in front of Canadian Tire, if that roadway became the on-ramp and it went between the gas station and the west end of Canadian Tire and then wrapped out that way, that would make more sense to me.
Certainly something that we could ask them to take a look at. I think anything there is going to be very problematic. But so any additional points? I think we've added a couple good ones. I haven't heard anyone not in support of the staff supported recommendations for the north and the south side. I would like us to ask some questions about the timing, and Councillor McConnell has some excellent points about asking questions with regards to how they're going to engineer that change and how they would actually do that at the time, because we definitely don't have the ability to shut that down for any extended length of time as in a replacement adjacent to it. But I know there's multiple ways they can do projects like this. So anything else for feedback? So Mr. Armstrong, you'll capture that and what's brought back to MTO for discussion. Matt, I think you're frozen up. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I just wasn't sure if it was on my end or your end. So.
Yeah, can everyone hear me okay? You just locked up there a little bit. So, okay. But yeah, so you've got that. So everyone good with that with staff direction? Is anyone else have any issues? Other comments? Okay. So with that, I will call the question. All in favor? Motion is carried. Thanks very much. And I'll just ask this really quickly. I meant to, the traffic study we are doing back there, is it possible the conclusions on that could change what we would throw back at MTO with regards to this interchange report? Mr. Armstrong? Okay, may have lost Matt for a moment. I can just ask that question after. I do think it's something we want to look at though, because we are doing that study with recommendations coming back in the spring too. So, okay, so we'll move on to 12.2. That's staff report 4-2022 and the IntelliVote agreement. Recommendations that council receive staff report 04-2022 for information and direct staff to bring the attached draft bylaw, being a bylaw to authorize an agreement with IntelliVote Systems Incorporated for the purpose of providing telephone and internet voting for the 2022 municipal election to the council meeting of February 7th, 2022 for final consideration and approval. Could I ask for a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Young, seconder Councillor Ostrander. Thanks, gentlemen. Ms. Velkamp, can you take us through the highlights of your report, please?
Yes, through you, Mayor Todd. So last year in September, Council passed Bylaw 41-2021 to authorize internet and telephone voting for the 2022 municipal election. The bylaw also authorized the ability to negotiate an agreement for the provision of these services. Clerks from 11 municipalities in Leeds and Grenville got together and issued an RFP. IntelliVote Systems won the bid for that RFP, and the group was able to secure a base service fee equal to $1 per eligible elector. And financial implications from this amount, staff are expecting it to be similar to the 2018 municipal election, which was approximately $8,300. And included with the report is the draft bylaw along with the IntelliVote agreement for review. Based on the recommended motion in there with council's approval. The bylaw would come back for final consideration at the council meeting of February 7th. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Lindsay. Any comments, questions for our clerk this evening? Seeing none, I just have one quick one. Who are the two that aren't involved in this? I see 11. I'm just trying. Westport's one, but I can't think of the second one. If I'm putting you in the spot, just tell me to forget it and I'll move on. I'm just curious.
I think it might be Athens.
Oh, yes, it is. Okay, just was curious. Any other comments, questions? Seeing none, I'll call the question and the vote. All in favor? Thanks, everyone. That's carried. And on to 12.3, that's staff report 5-2022. That's an update on our electric vehicle chargers. I think they've been installed and are up and running. Mr. Richard, you want to just comment briefly on that? The report has just been provided from information, but got a lot of curious people in town about those. They've been there for a little while now, and now they're up and ready for electric cars, from what I understand. So Nathan, please.
Yeah, certainly. Thank you through you, Mayor Todd. Yeah, so I'll just touch on a couple points. So we did push to get the electric vehicles installed this year. So there's a report that went to council in late 2020 that got approval to install 13 chargers. And so before that, there really weren't many options. And so this year we were able to install 7 separate charging stations, level 2. And they are at the Shoppers Drug Mart parking lot. There's 2 of them there. And there's a couple at the Sandras Line Marina parking lot. There's 2 there, and there's 2 at the Town Hall building, and there's 1 at the Leo Community Center. So those were ones that were, I'll say, the easier ones to install. We didn't install the one at the Walker House Centennial Park parking lot because that one's a little more tricky to install, but we're going to look at that this year. And then there's 4 more to be installed at the Recreation Center, the new arena, when it's ready. So those are all planned for and ready to go once everything's kind of completed at that site. Overall, all the chargers are active and available for EV drivers to see if they're looking for a place to charge in Prescott. They're on several smartphones now, or smartphone applications. The one that people use a lot is PlugShare, and there's a little screenshot that I put on the report that shows the 4 chargers that are active, or the 4 locations that are active, with the total of 7 chargers. And then there's a National Research Council of Canada has a site, and then Charge Hub is another one. And they're all showing active as of today. And there will be some small operational costs as we go forward for the power that is used for them. There's probably some small maintenance costs, and then a cellular connection at each location. And the cellular connection allows us to monitor the usage. We have a really good back end system that tells us when cars are plugged in and how much power they've used, how long they were plugged in for. And it also is really good for troubleshooting as well if we have any issues. So I put a little screenshot of one car that had used it. And since then, there's been a couple other vehicles that have used the chargers as well. So it's nice to see they're already being used. So I think for the next 2 years, council approved that that you would not charge for the usage of plugging into them at this time. And then later on, we look at maybe $1 to $2 per hour charge, which is pretty standard in the Eastern Ontario for EV chargers. We'll continue to monitor the usage. We'll make sure that they're always in good operational order. Again, there's lots of benefits that are out there to have them, both kind of directly and indirectly. I also had a couple of pictures of the actual installations. I'm sure everybody's kind of seen them. They're quite easy to use. You would download the app onto your phone, and you can actually start the charger right from your phone, or you can actually get a little fob from the company that installed them, and you can use that to pay for your charge as well, or to activate them at this time, and then later on, a couple of years, to use it to pay as well. And the environmental impact. So if you get an EV, the owners of EVs are basically reducing their greenhouse gas emissions in their transportation by 67 to 95%. And it just helps reduce harmful emissions from your car that a lot of people are kind of recognizing now. And then So the financial implications that, so 50% of the chargers are funded through the federal government, and then we're using provincial modernization money as well to do the other 50%. So there's really no cost to the town at this time, and then we'll use the modernization money for the next couple of years for the maintenance and operating costs as well. And that is it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Richard. Open it up. Any comments, questions from members of council, starting with Councilor Shankar, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Nathan. Good report. I just want to point out that this is something, there's probably not a lot of Teslas in town, maybe one. So, but this is to bring people into town, and it's also for the future. There's going to be more and more electrical cars. I saw an ad for Nissan has one now. I see Ford has an electric truck. So there's going to be more and more of those. Who knows what the federal government will mandate that, there may not be gas cars in 2030, who knows? But this is for the future. And if we're able to use federal funding and the provincial modernization fund to support this, that's great. It's not costing our taxpayers any money, and it's a welcome benefit to the town and to small businesses within the town. So I really like this, and again, it's good vision on our part, getting with the times and looking into the future. So thank you. Good job.
Thank you very much, Councilor Shankar. Any other comments? Councilor McConnell, please.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. A couple of questions. I know absolutely nothing about electric cars. How long does it take to get a charge on one of our charger stations?
Yeah, it's a good question. One way to kind of look at it, so the chargers will push out, say, 7 kilowatts, and so a battery pack and say most cars right now is about 30 kilowatts. So it takes, if you're empty, it would take about 4 hours in those types of, in that type of charger. Most people are going to be like half empty, so they're probably going to charge for 2 hours. That's probably an average of what we will see is people charge for 2 hours, and that'll get them kind of back up to 80 to 90%.
What about this quick charge thing that I hear about, that you can charge for a few minutes and get 8% of your charge or something like that? Are they equipped for that?
They wouldn't be equipped for that. So there is the charger that's up at the gas station at the highway. That's they call a fast charger. It's a 50 kilowatt charger. So again, the ones that we have, I said 7 kilowatts. This one's 50 kilowatts. So you can charge your car in about 30, 40 minutes. And I think they charge about $17 or $20 an hour. The capital costs are much, much higher for one of those. It basically takes AC current and converts to DC, and that's what allows it to move the electrons faster into your car. So it's a much bigger machine to kind of convert the power over. It's probably about $150,000 to install one of those.
Okay, so as you're, again, I don't know anything about these. I've never seen one work, but as the thing is charging, does it on the machine give you some kind of an indication of you're fully charged, or is there like a time that goes, you've been on for half hour, you've been on for an hour? Can you explain how that works to us?
Yeah, so it'll show on the display actually on the machine how many hours it's been connected. So anybody can kind of go look and see. And then the other thing, so you have, when people activate the session, they'll see it on their screen as well on their smartphone, and it'll show how long they've been charging. It'll probably show how much, where their car's at on kilowatts. So if it's a 30 kilowatt battery, it'll show, hey, you're at 25 kilowatts or 28, or it'll tell you when the session is ended as well. So there's a lot of communication that actually goes on between the charger and the car and your app. It's a full communication pathway there.
But this will be shown on some kind of a screen on our machine.
Yeah.
What I'm wondering is this. I mean, if Joe Blow comes along off the 401 and wants to charge his car, pulls up to the pump and there's already somebody there, is there something on there that's going to tell him how long he's going to have to wait to hook up, assuming that people are right there?
Yeah, I think so far the electric vehicle community's been, I think, fairly respectful of each other. I think that if somebody needs to get charged up and they see somebody, halfway through the charge, they probably wouldn't touch it, and you really wouldn't want to touch it at all. But I think overall you could see how long it would take and then come back when you think they're going to be done or gone, and then plug it into your car.
All right. Thank you very much, Nathan.
Yeah, no problem.
Any other comments? The only thing I just add to that, the one thing that we will need once things clear up in the springtime is probably paint those spots to designate EV only, and just some sort of signage to connect to exactly what Lee was talking about, and just a request that you don't occupy the space unduly. That's the only concern I actually have about where we have them, simply because you could have people in the neighboring areas, take a spot for 7-8 hours to charge, because generally a level 2 is pretty much, it's an overnight thing. You park it at home, plug it into your level 2, and you're fully charged in the morning. So if you do have people down in the area, you could get some people hogging it, and then that leads to problems. So we just have to sign it, and you got to hope that everybody's going to be courteous too. There's got to be some sharing of it.
Yeah.
Oh, Councilor Shankar, please.
I know we have a lot of signs in town already, but is there a chance that people that are coming to use the electric charger and they're busy, would there be, I mean, if they found that spot, are they looking at a website, or are they looking at those apps that you talked about already? Or should we have something physical there that says there are other EV chargers in town? You know what I mean? Like with a little map or something.
Yeah, right. So through you, Mayor Todd, that's a good question. So typically, so the little screenshot that I had there on one of the pages, it'll show you where all the charges are within whatever area you've gone on your phone. So the little snapshot would immediately show four chargers, and it'll tell, like, as you're coming into town, you're going to see that one of them is busy, and I think you can maybe even see how far somebody's gone into the charge. So you could say, okay, that one's busy, so I'm just going to go to the other parking lot. And so the way that they're positioned are kind of all in the downtown area. If we have all those chargers plugged in at one time, there's something fantastic going on in this world. I don't think it'll happen for a while. I think maybe in 7 years, but yeah, I think right now it'll be one of those, as far as the signage, we'll get that up. And then I think it's one of those things we'll monitor and see what the usage is like. And I think it'll, over the next year, we'll see if we need to kind of push some of the implementation of a bylaw or anything like that for making sure it's only EVs that are charging at that time.
Thanks, Nathan. And one thing I'll close on, if we're all good. Lee, did you have another comment? Sorry.
No, I was just thinking, I wasn't going to say anything, but since you asked,
I thought
we have to be careful. Yeah, it's your own fault for asking. Well, we have to be careful, in my opinion anyway, is competition with the private sector. I mean, we're offering a charge now at no cost. There is charger in the north end of town, as Nathan mentioned, a more powerful charger than ours. So it would have a different draw, I would think. But it only makes sense that with the plethora of electric vehicles coming out, that the gas stations are going to be putting in chargers, and for us to be putting up signs in competition with private enterprise, I don't think it's a good thing. So maybe we can do it now because there isn't much in town, but I would want to see us be putting signs up at the taxpayers, with taxpayers' dollar competing with garages who are paying taxes. I don't think that's a good thing for us to be doing.
The only thing I'd add to that is the level 2 thing. Most places where you can do a level 2 charge, they do tend to be free or very, very minimal cost. Businesses will set them up. I know there are different hotels in Ottawa that have them available to the general public as well. And as Nathan noted, most or all vehicles, it depends on the vehicle, how good the app is built in, will show you where the chargers are, and the phone chargers will show you what's available, what's free, and so on. And and it was the one thing I was going to close on, is that people that think we're subsidizing EV owners and fat cats driving Teslas. This actually is a really good economic development initiative, because a lot of people that drive these vehicles, they plan their trips. So you could have somebody that decides, hey, we're going to go for dinner tonight, and somebody wants to go to Kempville. Maybe they decide to go to Prescott and come down here simply because they've got the level 2 charger. And it does make people feel welcome, and you're tapping into, it's not just people right now. It's not just people driving a certain type of car. It's a community. And that's not a bad thing to tap into to continue what we've got going downtown in Riverwalk. We've got a lot of investment down there, and it doesn't look like it at times these days because COVID's been difficult, but we are poised to come back really strong. And I'm actually quite excited that we're doing this as we go into next summer. I think it's going to be well received. I think it's going to be used more than we expect right now. But anyways, just to comment on that, all the ones you'll see at the gas stations are level 3s. The fast chargers, because people pull in and you treat them like a regular gas station. You pull in, you wait 15, 20 minutes, and you're back at 80%, and you're back on the road most of the time. So anyways, it's interesting stuff when you start researching. I had a friend that bought one a number of years ago, and I owned one for a little while myself, but just everybody knows I don't have one anymore. This is not something that's going to benefit me in any way. So any final comments for Mr. Richard? Seeing none, so we're good to move on. We have 12.5. That is, 12.4. Staff report 06/2022 on the river route. We've got an update tonight with some route modifications. Matt, do you want to just take us through those modifications quickly? This is just for information purposes.
Certainly. So we took a look at the route and how we could better serve it, and also add additional stops. And so instead of going down North Augusta Road and coming out Kennedy Road 2 all the way to Maitland, we're going to try going on the second concession all the way to Maitland. That will allow us to put some stops along the way, allow us also to put a bus stop on the north side, right around Cedar Street in Maitland. We're shifting to Sarah Street to Merck Hall in Maitland, again, to pick up additional individuals. And then shifting the stop at Ingridion just a little bit further down the road. The one thing that had been brought up is the ability to use a flag down service. And that is, we're going to try that in the more built up areas. So Maitland, Johnstown, Prescott, and Cardinal. We want to be cognizant of the fact that we don't want buses being flagged down when they're doing in excess of 60 or 80 kilometers an hour. And so we looked at the built up areas and being able to support that. So with that, as we gain a little bit of understanding as to where people are flagging down, then that will allow us to add additional stops along the route if there's some commonalities. So certainly a new concept of being able to add that flag down service, and those changes will be rolling out next week. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Mr. Armstrong. Any comments, questions? Councilor Burton, please.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. Thank you, Matthew, for your report. Would it be possible to say, some friends want to go to the mall, per se? Could they call the river route and say, if we're all here at George Street, can you come and grab us and take us to the mall, or take us to the Walmart or whatever, and catch the bus that way? I mean, that could be a possibility of utilizing the bus even more.
It could be. Then scheduling becomes an issue as to how, so if you're just going for that one individual route or that one pickup, then how do you schedule the other ones along the way? So, and then you wouldn't have a commonality in terms of time of day that the bus might be going by. So certainly that's more of an Uber type concept, and something that as we move forward, and if we move forward, that we can certainly explore to be able to kind of bridge that gap between the traditional bus route, and then that on-demand service. So point well taken, and something we'll certainly work towards.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Burton. Any other comments? Councillor Ostrander, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just heard a couple of grumblings about would they consider putting a bit of a shelter up at some of the stops that aren't near a building, such as the Giant Tiger one and maybe a couple of ones along the major roads. I didn't know whether they'd heard any similar type, I won't say complaints, but suggestions, we'll call them. Winter weather, of course, has brought a few of them out of the woodwork. So just wondering.
So certainly, I think if we move beyond pilot and this becomes a permanent service, then we would certainly take a look at that and looking at it for the winter of next winter, basically.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Mike. Excellent point on that. I've seen some people shivering even recently at that Giant Tiger stop. So excellent point. Anything else for members of council this evening? Councillor Schenker.
I've been a big proponent of this transit system right from the beginning, and I like the fact that changes are being made as we go. So they're listening to the feedback of obviously from riders or from the bus drivers themselves. So I think that's great. And, instead of waiting for the 6 months to keep evolving and keep making it better. So that's great. Thank you, Matthew.
Thanks very much, Corey. Any other comments on this issue tonight? Just to the one myself, I just wanted to say again, I'm a strong proponent of this. Like Councillor Shankar mentioned, I think our whole council has been really boosting this all along, and even back to Councillor Jansman way back when she first ran for council. She's not in the call tonight, but she's always been a strong booster of it. So we've all been really strong supporters, and I just want to get that shout out because we are going to be coming to the decision in the not too distant future with our partners in Augusta and Edwardsburg Cardinal if we're going to continue to go down this road. And I would really, really strongly urge both of our partners to stay with us on this. I think it's incredibly valuable to the whole region. We need time to build it up. And, quite frankly, I think it's great to have the pilot project. It's great to make these tweaks and changes. We're showing we're really responsive to the ridership, but there's only so much we can do in the middle of a massive, unprecedented pandemic. So I think we have to take that into account with all of these numbers and stay the course right now, secure that provincial funding through the what's available through the gas tax, and keep her going. I know there have been particularly some negative comments out of Edwardsburg Cardinal, but I would really urge their mayor and some of their council to really take a look at this and try and stay with us, because I think this is a key initiative for all three of us. And again, thanks to Brockville for allowing us to work on this with them and make it happen. Without Brockville's support, this doesn't happen. So at any rate, thanks very much, Mr. Armstrong, for bringing this forward and for adapting as we move forward. And just again, let's keep this rolling. I think this is very important for the whole region. So hopefully we have the support from both of our partners to keep going. So we are at 12.5, that's staff report 7-2022. That's on the Edward Street Overpass rehabilitation project. This was the revised scope that we were to look at. Recommendation is that council approve the Edward Street Overpass remediation project for 2023 with an estimated budget of $1,087,356 and proceed with the design work and issuance of the request for proposal in late 2022 or early 2023 for completion in 2023. Could I ask for a mover, please? Moved by Councillor McConnell, seconded by Councillor Young. Is that Nathan and Matt or just Nathan? Sorry, I don't have it pulled up right yet, but please go ahead, gentlemen, whoever's taking the lead on this.
Certainly, so I'll take a crack at it. So this is a further to the conversation we had at our previous council meeting just 2 weeks ago. And so we went back, took a look at to make sure that we'd captured everything. The one thing that we were focusing on in the previous presentation was just the construction costs. So we've also added the contract administration and inspection, as well as the design work for the bridge. And so that's what you see in front of you this evening. As we previously also talked about, was the fact that the OSIF funding is increasing a little bit more than double for the town of Prescott for 2022 and for the next several years. And so we're able to use a portion of that increase to be able to support the bridge project, as well as using some of the allocation from 2022 and 2023 for from the infrastructure reserve allocation. So that's really what we're bringing back this evening. I think we got some good feedback from the previous conversation and discussion around this particular project, and wanted to see if council was comfortable moving forward with the design work and then ultimately tendering later this year so that we can secure the work and the hopefully the best possible price for 2023. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Matthew. Nathan, did you have anything to add to that?
No, through you, Mayor Todd. I think Matthew covered it off really well. It's it's a good opportunity to do a little bit more work on the bridge that maybe we hadn't had in mind, and gets the bridge in a much better shape for the future years.
Thank you very much, sir. Thanks to both of you. Open it up for comments, questions from members of council this evening. I know for people at home who are watching this and may see us pass this fairly quickly, it's because we actually had a very extensive discussion on this at our last meeting. So seeing no further discussion, last call. So nothing there. I'll call the question then. All in favor? Motion is carried. Thanks, everyone.
Excuse me.
Councilor McConnell?
Yes. I don't think we actually really said which, unless I missed it, which of the ways to do this we're actually going to do it. I mean, I know we just voted on it, but
yeah, we did.
I know what I felt I voted on, but I don't think it was for anybody sitting at home. They don't know what we actually decided to do.
Matthew, do you want to just comment on the option as selected, which we delved into a little more? Lee's right. We delved into that a little more at the last meeting, but please, did you want to comment on that quickly so everyone knows what we're looking at in 2023?
By all means. So when we originally took a look at the bridge, we were just focused on the expansion joints. However, when we went back and took a look at the bearings underneath, both at either the north and the south side, they are increasing in their deterioration timeline. And so originally that was going to be about 10 years out. Now that they're deteriorating quicker, then that kind of moves up the timeline into within the next 5 years that they would have to be replaced. So what we're approving this evening is actually not only doing the expansion joints, but the bearings on both the north and the south side. The bearings that are on the piers, the two set of concrete piers that stand underneath the bridge in the course of the span are looking excellent and don't need to be addressed at this time, but certainly the abutment bearings do. And so with that, there was two options if we're going to do that large and extensive project. One is to close the bridge down, and it would take approximately 3.5 months. The second was to keep one lane open at all times, with the exception of when they need to lift each side of the bridge to be able to put in the temporary supports to change out the bearings, and then again when they have to actually replace the bearings and they're in place at that point. So that will end up being approximately 1.5 weeks of closure over a 4-month period, and it's only expected to be closed 2 or 3 days at a time. Certainly we'll work with being able to make sure that people can still get around both on Sophia and Boundary from a traffic perspective, and then dealing with a pedestrian perspective as well. So really that's what we're approving this evening, is closing or keeping the bridge open for the majority of the project, only closing it for those 2 and 3 day periods, approximately 3 or 4 times throughout the project. And then it would be completed in 4 months' time. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. That good, Councilor McConnell. That covered the option.
That lets everybody know what we're doing.
Great, thank you. Good point. So we're fully clear on anyone who happens to be watching tonight and wasn't aware of the option, because people do remember that last rehabilitation a decade or more ago. So good to let people know even now this early. So we are on to 12.6. That is staff report 08-2022, and that's the 2022 replacement of the fire rescue vehicle. We did discuss again, well, I think it was 2 weeks ago as well. Recommendation is that council direct staff to proceed with the planning process to replace the current 98 International 4900 rescue vehicle with a rescue pumper vehicle for order in 2022 or 2023. Could I ask for a mover, please? Moved by Councilor Ostrander, seconder. Councilor Burton, please. Thank you. Mr. Armstrong, I believe that's you and Chief Rayner. I'd like to welcome Rennie to the meeting. Thanks for joining us again, Chief. So please take us into the report and some further comments on this planning process.
Certainly. So I'll first touch on what we're proposing here, and then I'll let Chief Rayner talk about the planning process. So really, we went through at our previous meeting the age of our fleet and each one of the apparatuses that we have as frontline response vehicles. The rescue vehicle is a 1998, and with NFPA standards, which is an international standard that says that frontline vehicles or first response vehicles should be replaced within a 20-year time frame, then it was due for replacement in 2018. So what we're talking about here is actually replacing the rescue vehicle with a rescue pumper, which will then have dual functionality, will help make the Rosenbauer Commander pumper last a little bit longer, and being able to respond as a frontline vehicle and a first response vehicle. And then from a support standpoint, from financial, we do have $65,000, almost $700 in debt payments that will be ending in 2023, which would be able to support the replacement of this vehicle. Normally what we do is take a debenture for 10 years, which then helps cover the cost of the vehicle in the second 10 years. So that would be supported through this. Then from there, what you want to do is, and I'll pass it over to Rennie, but is creating a planning committee to really scope out what you need in the vehicle. So at this point, I'll hand it over to Chief Rayner.
Chief, please.
Good evening, everyone. So what we propose, if council so wishes, with passing the motion, we'd like to strike a committee of our officers and some of our more veteran firefighters to establish a template to design an apparatus that would meet our needs. Currently, the International, the old rescue, is chock full of equipment. It's done very well for itself, but in the rear compartment, for example, houses our jaws of life, the actual compressed unit that powers them, the spreaders, cutters, as well as two hydraulic reels. It's a very large compartment, so that's one of the benefits of striking a committee together to get a truck that suits our needs. We sure would not want to enter the process of purchasing a truck and then find out things don't fit. I know it sounds maybe somewhat ridiculous, but we just want to make sure that we do it right. And I also think that having the value of our firefighters assisting with the design of the apparatus, to me is a no-brainer. They're the ones that are going to be using the equipment, and I think there's more of a sense of pride and just knowing, that we have some people that are, electricians, plumbers, mechanics on our department. It just brings a wealth of knowledge to the table that I would certainly enjoy being a part of. So I don't know if there's any questions, or if Mayor Todd, you'd like me to comment any further?
No, I'm certainly good, Chief. Thanks so much for that. It does follow up that good discussion we had a couple of weeks ago as well. So Good to see we're at this point. Open it up for comments, questions from members of council. Councilor Burton, please.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. Thank you, Chief. I think that's a great idea, calling in some veterans, and because these are the people that are going to be using this equipment. I mean, if you can work smarter, not harder, as they say, right? I mean, organizing your toolbox, you know exactly where things are, but in the fire service, you have to know where things are. And sometimes acting very quickly to save somebody's life, you have to know exactly where the jaws of life is. So I think that's a step in the right direction and very smart move. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilor Burton. Councilor Young, did I see your hand up? Nope. Anyone else? Councilor McConnell, please.
Just a question for the chief, if I may, through you, Mayor Todd.
Please.
What I read is you're looking at adding a pumper feature on the new rescue vehicle. And given what you just said about all the stuff that fits in this truck, apparently all this stuff has got to fit in the new truck as well. So is the new truck going to be a considerably larger vehicle, are you foreseeing?
Through your worship to Councillor McConnell, the actual comparison apparatus would be the current Rosenbauer we have in place now. So yes, it would be larger than the old International that we have. But one of my thoughts when I first started was it'd be nice to have the secondary pumper in place, just so we don't have to use the aerial for other than those specific calls. Because if for some reason the Rosenbauer that we currently have was to go to service for any period of time for, say, an extended repair, then we would have to run that aerial, and I would prefer to keep it in the fire hall and extend its life. So with the pumper option, you are right, it would be longer, but it would be in comparison to the Rosenbauer we have now. Part of the committee design would be to determine whether we want a center bridge mount. So the actual pump panel is up behind the cab. It's not at street level. So that provides for safety of our pump operator because they're up high and it's more visible. So there's quite a few factors going into the possibility of going with that option. To me, it just makes great sense. And Matthew had also mentioned about extending the life of the current Rosenbauer we have. So what we could do once we are able to, say, purchase the other apparatus is then rotate them. So maybe we put the rescue up front more often, give the Rosenbauer a little break. It could be a week about, 2 weeks about, or whatever the case may be.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Chief. Councilor Young, please.
Fortunately, we have the space to do that now. We're not measuring the interior door size before we go out and order a truck.
Absolutely.
Or height.
And you made another good point, Ray, last week or 2 weeks ago when we talked about this potentially freeing up the 98 International for use as a blocker on highway calls as well. I believe you're the one that commented on that, and not to get into fire operations, but that is the kind of thing that could possibly save lives in a highway incident. So it's gives us more flexibility as the fire company, more flexibility overall. So sounds really good.
There's not much money in a trade-in in a 20-year-old fire truck. So in the past, we've given them away, which is very nice of us, but we gave away a very good truck the last time that would still be running here if we had the space to store it. So I'm hoping that we're not considering trading in this old one. We'll keep it as a workhorse around for whatever, and a blocker on the 401 when required.
Yeah, I think that would be, as long as, the fire department sees the value there. I mean, we listen to the experts on it, but it does sound like a good idea for a vehicle that's still in reasonable shape from all we know. Mr. Armstrong, please.
Absolutely. I think that's the intention that we're going with, is to be able to keep the current rescue vehicle as a second response vehicle. And that way, if there's any additional equipment that needs at a scene, that we're able to use that in that case. But very good points from Councillor Young that we actually have space to be able to support keeping the vehicle in this case. And we certainly, that was part of the plan that we can move forward with.
Thank you very much, Mr. Armstrong. Any other comments? Only thing I wanted to leave off on is just a financial note. People at home and media, whoever might want to comment on this or consider this, that they can't see is the table, and Matt did refer to it, but I mean, all our vehicles, our major fire vehicles, are fully paid up in 2023, so that any debt that we're taking on will come from that retired debt on the other vehicles. So just wanted to show that, let everyone know out there, it's really good financial planning. It keeps up with the needs of the fire company, make sure we have good frontline vehicles, and we're continuing to move forward and not get into the issues that we have in the past with core fire vehicles and take on huge dollars, huge debt to replace them. This is actually very well planned out and a good use of tax dollars that shouldn't see any increase with regards to the debt. It'll just transfer over from the retired debt on the other vehicles to the new one as we bring it online in 2023. So good work overall by staff, great planning, and we've done a good job as a council on this the last X number of years as well, because more and more we're seeing reports where we're picking up from planned replacements. So really good to see. Anyhow, with that, I will call the question. If there are no further comments, seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? Motion is carried. Thanks, everyone. And moving right along, a couple items left. 12.7 is staff report 9, 2022. That's on our street paving for this year. Recommendation is that council directs staff to proceed with repaving of the following areas in 2022. 1, Duke Street from Park to the end of Duke Street, Park Street East from Boundary to Duke, Henry Street West from St. Lawrence Street to West Street, and Victoria Street. Could I ask for a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Ostrander. Can I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor McConnell. So turn that over to staff. Nathan, is that you or Matt on that one? Apologies, I just don't have it pulled up immediately, but actually it's both of you. So flip a coin, decide who's going to handle this one. Take it away, Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. I can roll through this one. Yeah, so I think we're looking at similar to what we did last year, where I think it was pretty successful, where we milled off a large section of a street and then repaved that entire section. And there are still quite a few locations in town that you could go and patch holes for a long time and never really have a good street, or you could just mill the whole street off and repave it. So that's what we're looking at here, is those 4 different areas, so similar to last year. Again, the OSIF funding, it is directly, needs to be spent on maintenance like that of road repairs. So this year we're looking at, again, the Duke Street, Park Street, Henry Street, and Victoria Street, in those sections that we've indicated. And then we do also have the map that shows the road conditions that was reviewed in 2019. And then we've also updated, so that map would show the updates of the work that was done in 2020 and 2021. So again, green is in excellent condition, yellow is fair to poor, and red is in very serious condition. So again, this major resurfacing work would be completed by Ken Miller Excavating, who is under contract with their civil work agreement. And they do contract some of this work out to other companies that have big equipment that does this work, as it's very expensive to have a milling machine and also a paving machine. So I think last year we saw Tomlinson come in with the milling machine, and then I think it was Tackeray that did the paving. But again, all arranged and contracted through Miller. So a lot of these sections as well, if you do a bigger section, there's an economy of scale there. So it is a less cost per square meter to get the work done. So it's more efficient that way. And then looking forward, the reconstruction of Dibble Street East from Boundary to Edward will be also completed in 2022. And that I think that section of the other section of Dibble went quite well last year or this year, and or I guess 2021. And then you'll see Miller out there starting that work probably in March or April. And then by deciding to do these areas early in 2022, we kind of get ahead of things, and we get the contractor to get in their schedule early, and we'll get it done in the spring. And it's kind of out of the way, and people can enjoy that nice repaved streets for the summertime. So the alternatives, we could look at other areas to repave in Prescott in 2022. And then on the financial implications, the province, like Matthew had mentioned, has doubled the OSIF funding envelope for Prescott. So it's gone from 267,000 to 550,000. And over the last several years, again, this OSIF money has been kind of directed to do paving improvement projects like this. And so those 4 streets that we identified would be approximately $295,000. Again, similar cost to what we had looked at in 2021 for the streets that we milled and paved. And that is it for the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Richard. Matt, anything to add to that?
Nope, I think captured it very well. The only other part is that later in 2022, we will be having a revaluation of all the street services that then sets us up very nicely for our 2023 through 2025 prioritization of repaving.
Good stuff. Thank you very much. Open it up for comments, questions from council this evening. Councilor McConnell, please.
And as I understand it, we are going to be doing that paving in the spring before summer rather than in the fall as in previous years.
That is correct. That's one of the reasons why we're bringing it now, so that we can get it scheduled as early in the season as possible.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilor McConnell. Other comments? Councilor Burton, please.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. I do have a question. So the yellow is for fair and poor conditions, correct, Nathan?
Yeah, that would be correct. Yeah.
Okay. So I do see here that if I'm looking at the map properly, that part of Boundary and part of Churchill, that's like around the school zones are in yellow. Is that correct?
Yeah, you're right. That would be near the schools there. Yep.
Okay. So I'm thinking, like, wouldn't it be our best interest to look at the school zones because they are heavily utilized on a regular basis normally with the buses, with parents. That may be something that we could look at redoing. I know, I think the other streets are just as important, but when you're looking at schools, it might be in our best interest to look at that area.
Yeah, that's a good point. Thank you, Councillor. I think one of the things is if they are red, it's a situation where the plows really do take every year kind of deteriorates them even more, and some unfortunately. So it seems like some of the roads south of the tracks, like they really didn't even have a good foundation where the asphalt was laid down on. Where I think up there north of the track seems to be like it had better construction, like most of the work on the roads up there. Other than I know we did the square last year, and that was kind of an interesting workmanship there. But we'll certainly take a look at it and see if it's see what type, look at the details of how that road looks and see if we can improve upon it this summer.
Just follow-up question, if I may.
Please, absolutely.
I know in the front, in front of Wellington School, There is quite a lot of potholes, and the road is not very good in that section. So just might be something that we can look at for sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, excellent points. And I know staff will look at this, but if numbers come in a little lower than anticipated in a couple of jobs too, when it happens, maybe they can add something this year without, without impacting on the budget. Because you like you say, those are some key areas there around the school, particularly that north section of Boundary, and even that last block of Churchill is pretty rough. We're dealing with that ongoing pothole issue that keeps opening up too there. With that's always one of the big problems when we have those water main breaks this time of year. You end up scooping it out with the plow all the time, so that's opening up, and the guys have been doing a good job keeping an eye on it, keeping it filled. But
Yeah.
Excellent points, Councillor Burton, and I know staff will look for other opportunities if and when they become available, especially depending on what the numbers come back. Other comments from members of council tonight? Only comment I had is Leanne brought it up on looking at the map, and the one thing I'll note looking at the map, people can't see it at home, there's a lot of green on that map. And we have done a lot of road work in recent years. We're keeping up with it, I think, quite well now. We've done extensive reviews of pavement at least 2 and 3 times since I've been mayor, and the most recent one in 2019. Of course, we got another one coming up later this year. So it's actually, this is one of the things I'm really proud of, because I drive around, well, we all drive around Leeds Grenville a lot, and we've got some pretty good roads in this town. We've got some problem areas, of course, like all older towns do, but we're tackling them with what we did with Dibble Street, what we did with St. Lawrence. We've got some key areas. I think East Street is obviously one major, where I think that's the next major project, I believe, if I remember correctly, that's coming up shortly as well. So we haven't forgotten the folks on who use East Street a lot and who live down there. But there's a lot of green on this map, and it's nice to see these projects and how we're handling it in such an analytical way, with going after the real the problem areas and the more traveled areas. So we're catching up on a lot of very old issues, and I'm not casting any aspersions on past councils, because this is a tough one. We've got a lot of roads and a lot of old roads, sewers, and whatever. So I just, not hard to get really excited about roads and this sort of thing, but I actually am on this one because, hey, I drive in town like everybody else, and I'm impressed with what we've been doing here, and I think we're putting the money into to good use, and having the doubling of the OSIF funding, of course, certainly helps too right now. So good that we're using that the right spots. So if there are no further, Councillor Shankar, please.
Just something you said there reminded me. We did a study where we checked all the sewers and the water lines in town as well. And so, is that a different study than what we've got here? The picture we've got of the road conditions? Because I'd hate to fix a road and then find out that we should have fixed the sewer system as well at the same time. Can Nathan or Matthew answer that?
Yeah, excellent point. So, gentlemen, do you want to tackle that one and let people know at home how we assess these things?
Yes. So through Mayor Todd, so we did have all the sanitary lines and the storm sewer lines inspected. So on all those roads that we suggested, I believe there's no major issues with any of the inspections that were completed, but we will double check that. And typically, it's exactly what would have led to the total reconstruction on Dibble Street over the last couple of years, is that, the road was bad on the surface, and plus the pipes were bad underneath the ground. And that kind of pushed us to the next level of a major reconstruction of the road. So it is something that we do look at, and we will double check that and make sure that there's no issues with any of the pipes underneath in those locations that we suggested. And just as I was thinking, maybe I know we've got Victoria Street on there as one of the streets, and we can look at that. And it's not a well-traveled road, maybe compared to maybe in front of the schools. So we'll look a little deeper into that and make sure that that road condition is in very poor condition, and then should be resurfaced relative to looking at other spots that are in the yellow zones, and making sure we're doing good decisions there on what we should be repaving.
Thanks for that that question, Gory, and thanks very much for the answer. And that also ties in, like, we've got that one stretch of red, and just to, go back to East Street. That's why we're holding on that, because that's a major project, and we do those every couple of years now, so we can time it with the availability of grants with regards to the federal gas tax, and that's actually, I mean, it also shows what we have accomplished, because we've done the two major road reconstructions, with the rest of Dibble coming in early this year. So we're making progress. So with no further comment, I will call the vote. All in favor? Thanks, everyone. Motion is passed, and we do have. That takes us to our budget discussions for this evening under 12.8. So budget 2022 presentations on transportation, parks and recreation. Mr. Armstrong, how big is this going to be? Do we need to take a recess, or can we get through this fairly promptly?
My guess is we can be through it in about 10 to 15 minutes.
Okay, let's won't hold you to that, but let's try it if everyone's okay. If no one needs I'm not seeing anybody rushing off screen to run to a washroom or anything. So we'll stay with the plan, and we'll stay here and try to get this wrapped before we conclude this evening. So please take us into your presentation.
Okay, I'm just going to ask if Lindsay would be able to share her screen, and then I'll walk through it.
Yes, I see it. So please go ahead. I think everyone's got it. Matt, you may want to turn off your video feed, though. You have been kind of getting a little staticky and breaking up a little. So just preemptively, it might not be a bad idea.
Okay. All right. So this evening, we're going to be going through the budget timeline, transportation, as well as Parks and Rec. So today is January 17th. And as I mentioned, transportation, parks and rec is what we're aiming at. Hopefully everyone can hear me okay. And we just also went through and approved the large scale infrastructure projects for this year as we move forward. So transportation includes operations, paving, bridges, traffic operations, sidewalks, snow removal, and parking lot, along with street lighting. So from the operations perspective, we're expected to spend about 15,000 less than what was budgeted at 1.1 million for 2021. And then the budget from 2021 to 2022 would increase by about 40,000. Paving, we are spending a little bit more. And if you'll remember, we approved a little bit of extra paving this year. And we're supporting that from the storm sewers, because we didn't have to do our storm sewer cleaning with the camera work. And so we were able to support a bit of that. Next year is a very large increase from budget to budget of 291,000, but that's because of the OSIF funding. So it comes into there, and then we're putting 253,000 into reserve to be able to support that project. So just want to make sure that people are, when you take a look at the bottom of the screen, it looks like 367,000 is the increase from budget to budget. But in actual fact, 290 of that is just with the OSIF funding increase. And so there is a revenue impact as well. The bridge, we're not budgeting anything for. We normally have a biannual inspection, but we have been inspecting it more frequently in the last couple of years, as well as we just approved the bridge project for 2023. So there will be no further inspection in 2022. Traffic would be increasing approximately $11,000 between the 2021 budget and the 2022 budget. A good portion of that is the increase simply from insurance premiums. Sidewalks, this is an area where we didn't spend the whole sidewalk budget in 2021. And so what we are going to do is move approximately 22,000 from the 2021 budget into reserve, and then bring it back into the 2022 budget. And so that would mean that the total replacement and repairs budget for sidewalks would be $73,000 in 2022. And so wanting to make sure that we're able to support that and allocate as much as we can from each year, year over year. Winter maintenance budget. So really no change in this one. We up to this point, we were quite lucky so far this year with not having to remove major amounts of snow. That will obviously change this week, as well as so far this year, we've had relatively good weather from the standpoint of not a lot of ice and so or snow. And so we haven't had to expend more than our allocation on salt and snow removal. So good news from that standpoint. Winter sidewalk, that's simply the amount that we pay towards the sidewalk plow that we replaced. Parking lots, that's for the clock tower parking lot for the electricity. And then street lighting is paying for the electricity for all of our street lights, as well as the repairs and supporting that. So budget to budget, an increase of 367,000. However, 304 of that is with additional revenues. So I wanted to make that point. There is an increase to the transfer to reserve and the amount that we mentioned earlier for the bridge, as well as in 2021, we ended up finishing our BMO debt payment. And so last year we took the opportunity to move quite a bit of that to reserve. And then this year we're the remaining amount that ended in March, we're also moving to reserve to support that. So that's the transportation budget. Did you want me to take a pause there?
Sure, we'll just open it up for any comments, questions on the transportation side of things. Councillor Young, please. Oh, Ray, you're muted.
Thank you. Matthew, I know we're doing the bridge in 2023, but aren't we doing the design and perhaps the RFPs in 2022? Shouldn't there be some money in there for that?
So from an accounting perspective, we put that into a work in progress. It doesn't come through the income statement. And so this is very much focused on the income statement. And so we would put the amount in reserve, and then the amount that we have in there will be supported once the project is finished and it moves to the actual assets from work in progress.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks very much, Ray. Lee, did you have your hand up?
Well, something just occurred to me. I didn't actually have my hand up. I was thinking about it. In other years, not every year certainly, but in other years, we have done some sealing. In other words, we've had a company in blow out cracks and reseal them with some kind of tar or rubber. I don't know really what the stuff is. Is there anything in our plans to do that this year?
Yes, so in terms of sealing and pothole filling, we do have plans for that. We do have some money in the operational budget to be able to support that, approximately $15,000. And we will, once the snow clears, be able to ascertain exactly where we want to focus that money on based on the highest need and what happens over the winter.
Okay, thank you, because we did a reconstruction on Water Street West last year, if memory serves me correctly. We put a new curb in. They paved the north side of the street, but they didn't pave the south street until the curb was put in. And I was noticing a couple of weeks ago when I walked down through there, that joint is not wearing very well. I think we're going to have problems there unless we actually go back and seal it.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful for the observation. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor McConnell. Any other comments on transportation? Seeing none, so please continue, Matt.
Okay, so from a Parks and Recreation standpoint, there is Walker House, Recreation Culture, Parks, Recreation Programs, the Marina, Pool, Community Center, and Museum. So Walker House would see a small increase of 3,200 between the 21 and 2022 budgets. Rec Culture, which is really where we support all of the community grant programs, as well as the subsidy for the library comes out of. And actually we moved some such as the Shakespeare's grant and the what we support, the Prescott figure skating and the South Grenville minor hockey, over to this budget. So it's really just a reallocation. Even though it looks like it's increasing, it's reallocating from elsewhere. The parks grant is, the parks budget is everything that we do from a parks perspective, from maintenance, the equipment, repairs, all of that type of thing, as well as all of the landscape purchases that we make in the course of a year. Rec programming, you'll notice a significant increase, and that was part of our design by hiring the manager of community services this year, and then being able to have some program support. And so really that increase is coming from what we had previously in the tourism budget that we haven't gotten to yet in terms of our review. The marina would see an increase of approximately $14,000. That's offset by revenue, and still being able to support just shy of an $80,000 contribution to reserve, which we are currently out for RFP on replacing docks, and so that will be supported that way. The pool, as you can see, that we're under projection for 2021. 2022 would see us decrease that budget just a little bit. And what we would hope to do in 2022 is actually bring back hopefully a little bit further into June, being able to use the pool during that time. And so that's what we've put in the budget to be able to support that. Community center, as we mentioned previously, being able to move the $65,000 over from what we put aside for the debt payment for the town, or for the fire hall, then to the community center to be able to support that project is what you're seeing there. Library has a very small increase of $772 budget to budget, and the museum a small increase as well. So while it looks like $215,000 of additional spending, I believe about 150 of that comes from other budgets and other places in the overall allocation. So that's what we have in this particular one. And as you can see, the reserve for the community center was previously $235,000 and then now increases to $300,000. While it goes into the reserve, we are supporting the project as we have embarked upon it. And so certainly that will be used to fund that.
That everything for Parks and Rec? Oh, sorry, Matthew.
Yep, that's it for Parks and Rec. So just to kind of give us where we are at this point. So the 2021 budget was approximately $8.5 million. We are projected to spend about $8.2 million at the end of 2021, and that would increase to $9.1 million. Now, I know that's a big number, and it certainly is kind of breathtaking, but I want specifically to remember that $300,000 of that is OSIF additional revenue. $118,000 came from the tourism budget that we haven't gotten to yet, as well as there's some increases in revenue along there. So that $657,000 increase, the vast majority is supported by additional revenue and different funding streams. And so we're still on course to review the budget at the next step for environmental, economic development, and water and wastewater. And then at our second meeting in February, we'll be dealing with revenue. And so I will be able to give a little bit of an update as to kind of our gap at the end of the next meeting. And then being able to talk about different ways that we can bridge that gap, and being judicious and going over the budget again and making sure that we've accounted for everything, and to make sure that there's no areas where we could pull back additionally. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. And just to underline that one more time, we are absolutely not looking at any sort of tax increase of 7 and 10%. That is absolutely a very preliminary number that is not reflective of the full reality here, but it was just noted for the purposes just of that presentation this evening. Just want to make that clear so that doesn't come out in the media or whatever else that we're looking at a 7 to 10% increase. We were focused on something in the between 2 and 3 is what we looked at preliminary from council, but we haven't gotten close to the final number there yet. But I think we can rest assured that it will be nowhere near 7 to 10%. So just want to make that absolutely clear before we start getting phone calls. So open it up for comments, questions on Matt's presentation overall, in particular that last bit on Parks and Rec. Anybody? Ray, please.
I'm just looking forward to seeing some of the negative signs in the next few budget pages where these numbers are coming out of. So
Certainly.
just a little humor, Brett.
Very little, obviously, right? Unfortunately. Any other comments from anyone this evening on the budget presentation? The only one I'll just toss in because we've just a question on pool and so forth. We're looking at, I'm assuming, going back to the Y again this year for lifeguarding. That seemed to go quite well last year, so that's what's included in the budget for expenses. The Y contract.
That's correct. So we originally signed up for a 2-year period. And so this would be the second of the 2 years.
Okay, the only thing I'll toss in there, and Matt, you probably know where I'm going with this, and probably everybody else as well, is just lifeguarding on the beach. That beach is absolutely positively packed every summer now. I think we are really getting to the point where it's not only advisable, it's almost necessary just to keep an eye on the kids that are out there. And we do have motorized boats not too far offshore, and it's not a bad thing to look at and just see if the Y could even provide anything like that. I'm wondering if they even can, because I know they've got their own challenges right now, but it just would be something that I think we should at least keep our eye on if, whether it's this year or years to come. And it's a good news story in a lot of ways, because I've never seen crowds down in that park in the summertime like I have the last couple of years, whether it's partly a COVID thing, people so desperate to get outdoors, or they're just really discovering what an incredible gem we have down there with the splash pad, the pool, and the beach. And we're going to add more amenities to it this year as well with some of the new things we're coming up with, like the cover on the fencing. But anyways, not going to push it really heavily tonight, but before we come to the end of the budget process, maybe we could have an answer to that question, and if it's even possible, and what the cost would be. So I do think it's something we should probably look at some point. I'm not saying it's got to be this year, but that was the only comment I had just on beach. So anything else from anyone, or we'll move on for tonight, and we'll be back to this in 3 weeks. Okay, so seeing no further comments there, thanks again, Mr. Armstrong, for that presentation. Bring those numbers forward tonight. So we are on to 13 resolutions, nothing. 14 bylaws, none this evening. 15 new business. Any member of council have any new business to present tonight? Seeing no. 16 notice of motion. Any member of council have a notice of motion to present tonight? Seeing no. 17 mayor's proclamations, nothing. No closed session under 18, and no rise and report under 19, of course. 20 is the confirming bylaw for this evening's meeting, and that is 04-2022. Recommendation reads that bylaw 04-2022, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the council meeting held on January 17th, 2022, be read and passed, signed by the mayor and clerk, and sealed by the seal of the corporation. Could I ask for a mover this evening, please? Moved by Councillor Ostrander. Thank you, sir. Seconded by Councillor Burton. Thank you very much. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Thanks, everyone. So 21, we're at our adjournment. Would someone care to make the move for adjournment this evening? Moved by Councillor McConnell, seconded by probably everyone. Councillor Shankar, thank you very much. All those in favor? We are adjourned. Thanks, everyone. And again, big thanks to our Public Works Department. Big request for our citizens. Show some patience there. It's going to take a few days to fully dig out from this one. And I think we've got more coming even on Wednesday. So little patience, folks. We'll get through this together as we always do. Take care. Stay warm. Stay well. Have a great night.
Right now.
Good night.
Night.